Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies, and today a very, very special one. Michael Lorenzen throws the 14th no-hitter in Philadelphia Phillies history. Weston Wilson has a magical moment, homering in his first ever major league at bat, and Nick Castellanos has a multi-home run game and number 200 on his illustrious major league career. What a night at Citizens Bank Park. Oh, and did I mention the Phillies won the game? Yeah. A lot to get into on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. You can hear me on the radio here in Philadelphia on 97.5 The Fanatic. See me on the television occasionally, on NBC Sports Philadelphia. 2 years, credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member. And, of course, happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. If you hit up the folks at Game Time yesterday and you got last-minute tickets to last night's Philadelphia Phillies matchup with the Washington Nationals, then congratulations. You witnessed one of the great regular season baseball games in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies organization. It was absolutely incredible to the point where I don't even know how I'm going to fit everything in that happened in last night's game in today's podcast and give them all ample time. So here's how we're going to build it out. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to go top to bottom. We're going to start with the biggest story of the night, then the second and the tertiary story of the night. So it'll be Lorenzen's no-hitter first, the Weston Wilson moment second, and Nick Castellanos somehow ends up with a bronze medal on a 2-home run night that saw him hit his 200th career home run. It's crazy, right? But first and foremost, just the formalities out of the way about last night's game. In case you weren't aware, got caught up in all of the hubbub surrounding what the Philadelphia Phillies did last night. They did beat the Washington Nationals by a score of 7-0. Very comfortable victory for the Philadelphia Phillies. The offense looked good against Mackenzie Gore. And Michael Lorenzen, I'd say he had a solid start in his home debut for the Philadelphia Phillies. Let's start with the no-hitter. What a darn moment by Michael Lorenzen. I mean, the guy, it wasn't the cleanest no-hitter of all time. It wasn't a perfect game. He walked 4 batters. He threw a total number of pitches of, let me just get the correct exact number here. It was over 120. Yes, 124 pitches thrown in this one. Great job by Rob Thompson having a discussion with him during the course of the game to make sure he's still healthy and feeling good enough to continue, and going against probably his better judgment and allowing Michael Lorenzen to continue to throw, even though he was getting up there in pitches, really up there in pitches. I mean, you don't see 120 plus very often at all, but Lorenzen straight up battled. The defense strong behind him, but Lorenzen did what he did in his Phillies debut, not the home debut, but his first start with the team against the Miami Marlins. He attacked the zone. He worked the corners, but he worked the corners in an aggressive way. His stuff looked good. Very non-complicated delivery that's very repeatable, very composed on the mound, regardless of what's going on, whether he has base runners on because of walks. It was an absolute masterpiece by Lorenzen. And he's a guy who pitches to contact a lot. I believe he only had 5 strikeouts in the game. Let me just confirm that. Yes, 5 strikeouts, nearly as many walks as he had strikeouts, but he pitches to a lot of contact. He uses the big parts of the ballpark. And in Citizens Bank Park, there's not many of them, but just worked everything to center field and Johan Rojas and up the middle. Got some great plays from Alec Bohm. Got some great plays. A great play by Weston Wilson early on a ball that wasn't going to be in play, but still any out you can get easily is something that extends your chance of going deep into games. It was a beautiful thing. I'll tell you straight up personally, I've never watched a no-hitter or perfect game start to finish in my life. Never have. Not Roy Halladay's perfect game against the Marlins. I had a baseball game. Not Roy Halladay's no-hitter in the postseason. I was at practice, and I listened to some of it on the radio, but I've never sat down. I've tuned into games where it's like, oh, you get the alert on your phone, so-and-so for this team is throwing a no-hitter, and I'll check in for like the 8th and 9th inning, and oftentimes they'll give up a hit late, but sometimes you'll get to witness a no-hitter. I saw a Phillies no-hitter, I should say. Unfortunately, I saw a no-hitter in the World Series last year between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Houston Astros, and that was something that I've clearly tried to make myself forget. But this is the first Philadelphia Phillies no-hitter that I've ever seen start to finish, and it was amazing. It hurt me a little bit this morning because I was out at a bar watching the game, and I couldn't leave. I didn't want to jinx it. I couldn't tell anybody what was going on. I would send text messages like, hey, if you haven't turned on the Phillies game yet, you should probably do so. But I didn't expressly say it because I don't want to jinx it. I couldn't leave, so I was out there late last night waiting for everything to finish up. And actually, the game finished up before 9:30, so it wasn't too late, but longer than I was planning on saying. And man, whoever stuck to their routine last night and kept the jinx at bay, well, it worked out because Michael Lorenzen finished everything with a pop-up to center field. Johan Rojas makes the play. The young center fielder just recently called up, gets to catch the final out of a no-hitter. And some more impressive things about the start by Lorenzen. He said post-game that him and JT Realmuto, he never shook JT off once in this game and complimented him on the game he called. To come here and only make his second start ever throwing to Realmuto and second start with a new team at Citizens Bank Park, where Lorenzen said himself he could barely hear the pitch comp and not shake once, that's ultimate faith in a catcher. And it's credit to JT Realmuto for calling a great game. I mean, there's so much credit to be given out to everyone who had a part in this game for the Philadelphia Phillies, but it's mostly Lorenzen. I mean, yes, other people help you on a no-hitter. You get defensive help, but bottom line is the pitcher showed up and put together an all-time great performance. Not since Cole Hamels in 2015 have we seen a Philadelphia Phillies no-hitter, and we got a chance to witness history last night at Citizens Bank Park. I hope you got a chance to get down there. If not, I hope you got a chance to watch it all. And even if you didn't get a chance to watch it all, I hope you got a chance to see the final out and the reaction by Michael Lorenzen and his family. Johan Rojas jumping around like a madman. Nick Castellanos not even watching the final out, but instead watching his new teammates' reaction on the mound. The dugout emptying as they rallied around Lorenzen, giving him the moment of his professional career. He called it the greatest moment of his baseball career, and I find it hard to argue with that when it comes to what he was able to accomplish. And seeing his family, his mother jumping up and down, and the post-game interview on NBC Sports Philadelphia, where Tom McCarthy asked him about his late father and what it would have meant to him and the emotions behind it. I mean, I've talked to multiple people who said that last night's game, for other reasons we'll get into, but the no-hitter as well, brought them to tears. I feel comfortable in saying that it's one of, if not the greatest regular season baseball games I've ever watched. It was magical. And the no-hitter was the ultimate storyline, but there was so much more that happened over the course of the game that I'm going to get into throughout this podcast. The theme that I couldn't help but keep thinking yesterday during this game is that line from Moneyball that Brad Pitt puts together so eloquently. How can you not be romantic about baseball? I don't know. And if you're not, well, go back and watch that game last night because it was an absolute sight. Michael Lorenzen may never have as great of a moment with the Philadelphia Phillies as he did last night. But, I mean, looking forward to, he just looks so comfortable. He attacks the zone. He has all the makings of a guy who can be a really big piece for this team. And Dave Dombrowski, what a trade deadline acquisition by him to bring Lorenzen in here and immediately give a shot of adrenaline to this team in those first two starts. I mean, he goes 17 innings in his first two starts with the Philadelphia Phillies. No other pitcher has done that in two consecutive starts, that number of innings for the Phillies all year. I could go all day about it, and I don't want to make this a 4-hour-long podcast or anything, but what a moment by Michael Lorenzen. Complete congrats to him. It was an incredible feat, and I'm still in awe of it a day later. It was just magical. And the feeling that you have when that's going on, I'll tell you what, there's nothing like being out on that mound and just knowing that you're in the zone and you have something special brewing. I can't imagine the emotions running through his head, but we got to experience a little bit of that, just being able to witness it. And it was a beautiful thing. And it was not the only beautiful thing that night. Coming up, we're going to talk about Weston Wilson's debut with the Philadelphia Phillies, an unheralded debut that we didn't know was coming. And we found out with the call-up in the lineup. But yes, it was a moment for Weston Wilson as well. And we'll get into that coming up. Of course, despite the emotion of the day, still got to hit the sponsors. And I do want to let you know that the Nationals and Phillies will play at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. It'll be hard for them to replicate what happened last night. But you can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull that all up there. Coming up next, we're going to talk about that Weston Wilson home run and everything that surrounded that as we continue just what is one of my favorite ever episodes. Got to be one of my favorite ever episodes of Locked On Phillies. We'll discuss as we continue. First, though, and it's apt that today's sponsor, the title sponsor, and our main sponsor for the episode is Game Time. I don't know how much more I can sell you on Game Time than what happened last night. Last night was a random game for the Philadelphia Phillies, a summer series against the Washington Nationals, Game 3, a pitcher who barely anybody would have had his jersey at this point, including his own family, because he's just joined the team. And you split a doubleheader, and it's like, okay, it's just one of those dog days of summer games against the last place Nationals team is not very good. And it's just like, do we want to go to the ballpark? Maybe last second your buddy hits you up and he's like, yeah, sure. Why don't we go ahead and get tickets? Well, even if you forget to plan months in advance or don't have a game worthy of planning months in advance and you decide you want to go, Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And through Game Time yesterday, you could have snagged last-minute tickets and been in the building for one of the great Philadelphia Phillies regular season games of all time and witnessed baseball history. That's as good of an endorsement as I can give Game Time. They make that happen for people. You get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. You get pictures of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds. It's just a couple taps, and tickets are sent directly to your phone. You don't have to root through your email or wait for a ticket transfer. No, it's that easy. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Oh, man, I'm still buzzing about Lorenzen's no-hitter. His Vans that he wore. I didn't know they made Vans cleats, but those will be going to the Hall of Fame. They dug up the pitching rubber to give to him from the mound. They installed a new one, so there will be a brand new one for Game 4 of this series today. Again, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Phillies Nationals Game 4. You'll be able to listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. Aaron Nola takes the mound for the Phillies, so back to reality, as Eminem once said. But bottom line, hey, another opportunity. Maybe this is a shot in the arm for Aaron Nola, but we're still talking about last night's game because there's so much to get into. Let's talk about Weston Wilson, the 28-year-old outfielder who made waves in spring training this year by showing off some pop. And he's been hitting the ball out of the ballpark down in the International League and the minors. And he's a guy that has nearly 3,000 minor league at-bats under his belt. I had a buddy of mine, so I'm 28 years old, and one of my buddies who I played with growing up texted me during last night's game and said he played in the Cape Cod League with Weston Wilson back in college. And that just gives you a time frame of the age. Guys my age, we don't get called up to the major leagues. Now, I'm not nearly as good as any of those guys deserving of a call-up, not even close. But my point is, 28 is like a dead zone for minor league baseball players. A lot of guys have given up by that point. They've been cut. They've been told they're not good enough. I'm sure Weston Wilson has had that conversation multiple times. But, man, he stuck it out. He got his opportunity to play. And some guys, all they get is their opportunity to play. And some guys, they make the most of it. And in his first at bat, with his family watching and everybody, the whole clan, just watching, the whole Wilson clan was sitting there able. That's the beautiful thing about last night, right? We're going to talk about Nick Castellanos' moment coming up. Or moments, I should say, because he had 2 home runs in the game, but his son Liam was there. And Weston Wilson's whole family was there to watch his major league debut. And Michael Lorenzen's family was there to watch his home debut. And it just so happened, how does that happen? Like, how do so many things come together so perfectly to form an amazing night of baseball, the likes of which we'll probably never see again? I don't even know, but the universe works in mysterious ways. And in baseball, again, how can you not be romantic about baseball? But let's talk about what actually happened. So Weston Wilson made a play before he even got up to the plate. He made a nice play up against the wall in left field where he started yesterday to go ahead and help Michael Lorenzen on his quest for the no-hitter, which we know he would eventually accomplish. But that had to settle down the nerves a little bit, and he gets up facing Mackenzie Gore in his first major league at bat, having seen Nick Castellanos already go yard once, and he hits it out to left field, and his family goes insane. He's the first Philadelphia Phillies player to homer in his first at bat in the major leagues since Marlon Byrd, I believe they said on the broadcast. That was near 2 decades ago. I believe. Derek Hall had his first major league hit as a home run, but it wasn't his first at bat, I don't believe. And I mean, Weston Wilson, I can only imagine mentally the grind he had to go through to get to this point where he finally gets an opportunity at the major league level. And then to do that with your family watching, and they cut to his family. And of course, people are going up and down. And I believe it's his wife was there, wife, girlfriend. I'm not sure. You would have noticed her in the red dress that she was wearing. But she was enjoying it. And the guy who you notice immediately when they pan to his family is his father in tears, just drawn, like emotion drawn out of him by his son's greatest moment of his baseball career. It was such a beautiful thing. You have to imagine they had numerous conversations while he was in the minors of, Dad, I don't know if I'll ever make it there. I don't know if I'm good enough. Maybe his father telling him he is and he needs to stick it out. Maybe his father having the tough conversation saying, listen, man, you got to make decisions for yourself. Maybe you don't, and that's okay. Maybe you're not good enough, and that's okay. And then all of it culminates in, hey, we're going to be there. You get called up. You get to play. You get to start. And you hit a home run like that. He also had his first major league stolen base. He played a great game. He had a run scored in addition to the home run. I mean, Weston Wilson was flawless in last night's game, as many Phillies were, but it was very emotional to see his father react to that moment and his loved ones react to him doing that. And he couldn't stop smiling. And man, can you blame the kid? I can't even say kid because he's not that young. He's one of those guys that's been, it feels like Crash Davis in Bull Durham, about like being down in the minors so long. And now it's just, you get the opportunity at the majors finally, and it all comes full circle. It was beautiful. It was an absolute beautiful thing for Weston Wilson. And I'm not sure that he minds one bit that his moment was overshadowed by Michael Lorenzen's, because to him, that was the greatest moment of his baseball career. So now we've gotten 2 out of the way, right? We've had Michael Lorenzen's magic moment, and we've had Weston Wilson's magic moment. And there's still time for that guy we watch every day. Not the new guy at the deadline, not the call-up. No, Nick Castellanos, who's been the best player on this team for a large part of the year and the only all-star as far as a position player is concerned for the Philadelphia Phillies. Craig Kimbrell, of course, made it as well. And he had a moment that was overshadowed by both of his teammates' accomplishments, but still something that deserves plenty of time on this podcast. And unfortunately, is held to only a segment because of all the other magic stuff that happened in this one. But yeah, so shout out to Michael Lorenzen once again for that no-hitter and giving us that to experience, to Weston Wilson and the moment he shared with his family and his teammates, and personally hitting his first major league hit, his first major league at bat for a home run at home at Citizens Bank Park, to raucous cheers from the crowd, and getting the ball back from the girl who caught it. Of course, he signed the ball, took some pictures, talked to her and everything, and then he was able to receive that ball back. So that's great that he was able to get that. And then on top of it all, we have Nick Castellanos and what he did last night in a 2 home run performance and a milestone moment, which we will discuss as we get into the final segment and wrap up a jam-packed episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, I do want to tell you one more time, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Maybe the most forgettable Phillies game of all time. The game following the Michael Lorenzen and Weston Wilson and Nick Castellanos game and the no-hitter and a win over the Nationals. Well, you still got to wrap up the series win, and the Phillies will play the Nationals tonight, again, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull up everything there and listen to that game. So go ahead and check that out. You never know when something magical is going to happen. And Nick Castellanos, early, it looked like he was going to be the story of this game because he homered in the first inning And then he homered in the third inning. And those 2 home runs got him 199 and number 200 on his career. To hit 200 career Major League home runs is a magical thing. I mean, there are some all-time greats. I only know this because someone was debating Tony Gwynn versus Miguel Cabrera as a hitter. Tony Gwynn did not hit 200 career home runs. He didn't reach that mark, and he's one of the greatest hand-eye hitters of all time. This is not a slouch accomplishment. This is not 50 home runs. This is not 100 home runs. And even those are good. But over the course of a career, a decent power hitter should be able to compile those. No, 200 is like, okay, we're starting to get into territory where this guy's a really good power hitter. And Nick Castellanos has always been more of a doubles guy. He's always been more of a gap-to-gap hitter. He can lose the ball sometimes when you need him to, but he's not a 35, 40 home run a year guy. He's not that type of player, which is fine, but he's had an outstanding year. And for him to hit 200 at home at Citizens Bank Park with his son Liam running around in the stands, having the time of his life. You saw Liam celebrate with the Wilson family. You saw him celebrate with the Lorenzen family when they had their moments. And, of course, earlier on in the game, he got his own to share with his dad. But it was a great accomplishment for Nick Castellanos. We knew it was going to come when he started having the success this year, that he was going to probably get to 200 this year. Didn't realize it would come that quickly in such a burst of 2 home runs off the lefty Mackenzie Gore. But, yeah, he was just seeing the ball well yesterday, hitting the ball with power. The ball was carrying, which gives even more props to Michael Lorenzen for what he did with a lot of fly balls. I think he had 13 or 14 fly ball outs in yesterday's game, and he ended up throwing a no-hitter. The fact that none of those got out was crazy, but Nick Castellanos made sure that his were absolutely gone, and he gets the 200. I'm sure that that's a moment that he's going to remember forever, hitting his 200th career home run with his young son able to be there and see it and celebrate it with him. So congrats to Nick Castellanos, still having a great year. Folks, the vibes for the Philadelphia Phillies are at an all-time high. And tomorrow's episode, we're going to go back to the day-to-day and the focus on the playoffs and who do they play next and how do the Phillies keep winning and the Twins come in this weekend and all of that stuff. But today, I needed to take the opportunity to just go through what was a magical, whirlwind, amazing night, the likes of which I have never seen all in one baseball game in the regular season. You have postseason nights. You have the Bryce Harper home run to send the Phillies to the World Series where the moment creates itself based on the game. But this was not game dependent. This could have been any other game, and the moment was created by the players who played it. And I think that's just an absolutely beautiful thing, an improbable thing, and one that all of us are going to remember forever, myself included. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I got nothing more to say that hasn't already been said 100 times over, and we're going to just keep remembering this game forever. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. We got plenty more fun stuff coming this year with the Philadelphia Phillies as they make their playoff push, and you're going to want to be a part of it. So you're going to want to subscribe to the YouTube so you get notifications when new episodes are posted. All of that good stuff there. So go ahead and check that all out. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies, and I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On